Hello, hello, it's Ammonia Void here. Today I took you to my kitchen to change the environment a little bit. You can see my toaster here. And I'm here with my fourth episode, and this time on the topic of photographing sex and intimacy, as that is something that you guys ask me a lot about, and you were interested. What are my approaches? What are my stories? So I thought, okay, why not make an episode on this theme? It took me quite some time to actually put this together because it is a lot of things and a big part of my work. So I wanted to make sure to include a lot of things and that it's interesting for you. So let's dive into this. I said that it's about sex, photographing sex and photographing intimacy, and those entities for me can work both together and also as separate entities. And I will try to give you some stories and some examples so you know how different they can be from each other. So first I would like to start with saying how did I actually came to photograph these topics, or how did it came to me, because I never imagined myself to be actually doing this. I was always subconsciously attracted to themes that are a little bit taboo or that are not talked about very much, but everybody is doing them at the end of the day. So these hidden topics, it's like what is out there, this secrecy, this mystery, I like to uncover it, but at the same time keep it sacred as it should be for me. And it's kind of like a search for some truth in this very fake world. It's like a pure material that I'm trying to work with, because I find a lot of freedom in seeing people being themselves, or really stripping these social layers. And when people are vulnerable, intimate, they lose themselves. And when I see that, I think that is the raw form, the core of my work that I try to convey, or the energy that I try to also transfer through my pictures. And when did I start it? I think it was actually the project that I started is called Oxymoron, and I started this at the beginning of 2023 in winter, when a lot of people are doing a lot of kinky stuff. And in Amsterdam, it's not much to do in winter. It's dark, it's cold, and what else can you do from clubbing or from doing all these crazy things behind closed doors? So one night I was thinking about that I would like to start something new and something more punchy, and it also had to do a lot with my period at the time. And I don't mean like the period, female period, but like time period in that moment. And I made the decision to write an advertisement on a fetish website, and I wrote there, hey, I'm a photographer and I'm curious what people are doing behind closed doors. So if you're up for it, let's meet and see what we can do. I had no idea where this is gonna go, and I was so surprised how many people wrote me, especially exhibitionists, because this is just perfect fit for them. So I had to do a little filter, and the website in itself was really crazy, because everybody, like, to enter, they made like this kink test to say like what kind of kinks they have, fetishes. And so many of them I had no idea they existed. So I had to do a lot of googling and researching about what certain things means. It was like a whole new world that I was really new to, and I had no experience of. And from that moment I really dived into this. Is it underworld or is it normal world? I don't know, but it was a certain kind of niche, and I'm gonna tell you more more stories a little bit later in the episode, because it's gonna tie into the topics that I'm gonna talk about. But now you know the starting point of how I dove into this thematic in my photography. And how do you photograph something like this? That is, I don't think there is a manual on how to do it, because most of the times those situations are really spontaneous, and I don't even know myself how I got into certain situations. Okay, you can activate it, let's say, like by posting something on a website like this, or but sometimes it just happens and I am there. So most of the times I just have to go with the flow, and I have zero expectations of what is going to happen, and I don't mind. I'm really open that here is the stage, please, whatever. I'm open to anything. So with this kind of attitude, you can get into these kind of situations, and you also have to read the room a lot and accept what people want or don't want to show you. And I never direct in these moments. I know it's like a matter of course, and I just imagine like directing in these kind of situations. It's a no-go. Imagine you tell somebody like, oh, can you please like change your face right now because it doesn't fit my vibe, or just can you just move a little bit. It's not like a porn scene where you can do that. It's just really like a sacred moment that you're working with. So I never direct. I'm just like there, and I observe what is happening in front of me, and I photograph from that position. And because if you direct, or if you try to interfere, you can ruin that moment, and that moment then becomes about you and not about them. And because intimacy and, let's say, sex is something very personal and also specific to the people involved, I don't think it's my position to say how they should do it, how they should look or express themselves. So I just tranquilo, nothing. I'm just invisible in that moment. And I can give you an example from some recent shoots. I was having like a conversation with a couple, and I went to see them, and I really thought that I'm just gonna take casual portraits or like intimate portraits, and it did escalate, which I really wasn't mentally prepared for. So I also had to shift my energy, but it was a really, really beautiful moment, because I just went there with a few rolls of film, and we were just talking, and I remember we were just in the living room sitting. I was petting the dog, and they asked me, so Lina, what would you like to take pictures of? And I said, yeah, well, I would like to take pictures of you guys and your love for each other. And and they said, okay, we can work with that. And I mean, they were both really, really beautiful and creative, so they kind of understood that it's abstract, and then I don't expect them to perform anything. They can just be themselves, and the fact that they knew that they can do whatever they want, it gave them the freedom. And then I was taking pictures in the living room, and then they said after a while, like, why don't we just go to the bedroom? I'm like, okay, let me then swap my film, because it's finished, so I need to be ready. And the energy, it was, I don't know if I can even describe it in words. I just disappeared in this space, and I was so close. It was like this ultimate closeness in a sacred moment, and I felt this energy. It very much felt like I am part of this act, physically, mentally, spiritually, even though I was not. And that was so intense experience for me. At some point I was like even standing on the bed, like above, and taking pictures. But it felt very natural to me because I thought, okay, this is actually the purest form of love, how they have it, how they perceive it, because it's real and there is no expectations, no direction. It just shifted the energy naturally. And I think they didn't expect it either, but it just happened, and that was the beauty of the moment. And I feel this energy from the pictures too. And when the shoot finished, I mean, it sounds even weird to call it a shoot, let's say, when the moment finished, we all like sit down. I was completely red, but like overheated, because it was so, the warmth spilled throughout the entirety of my body, because I sensed this heat, this energy, this love, this passion. And I was riding this high, and they were too. It was like we, all three of us, went through something together that we just, it's hard to explain to somebody. And I was riding on this high for like multiple days. It was insane. It was really like a drug feeling, I'd say. And the crazy thing was that because I didn't know that this shoot is gonna evolve like this, I had another appointment with a person after to shoot. And it was so difficult for me to get to like a different mental space to give energy to this different person, because I was still in the previous shoot. So that was like the beauty of where sex, intimacy, love intertwined all together. And I questioned after whether I am supposed to be part of things that are so sacred, that are so intimate. For me, it was not so much about the physical act of what was happening, but I was really focused on the facial expressions, the body language, the little gestures, and also what, let's say, they whispered to each other during this situation. That was the intriguing part for me. And I learned from this to be really open to whatever is going to happen in front of me. And I remember this moment as something very strong, and how much it impacted my approach to creativity, to photography, and to understanding the sacredness of certain situations, moments, and environments, people, and their intimacy. And to give another story, more, let's say, from rewinding back to this fetish website, I got a response from a couple that they would be interested in me photographing them. But because it was complete strangers that I have never met, and on this website people usually don't post their face or nothing, I was like, okay, let's meet in a public place, so we can get to know each other and talk about what are the expectations, and set some boundaries. So I met this couple in a wine bar. We had a few glasses of wine. Very interesting backgrounds these people have. Like one from the couple is working in a university. The other one is working in like a film industry. So I was like, okay. I didn't have any idea of what I don't know what kind of profession I should match with their kinks or whatever. So I was just really like interested to getting to know them. And the interesting part was that they told me that their relationship is all set on a contract, and then they have a BDSM relationship, that he is a dominant and she is his submissive. She's also exhibitionist, and that's why they have these very clearly defined boundaries, like these 50 Shades of Grey, but like different level, the professional real level. And what was funny, then the guy told me, well, and the nice thing in the contract is that it's written that every morning I have to bring her a coffee to bed. And I thought it was kind of cute. So even though it was like this very, very pragmatic or set boundary contract, it did have these little cute moments or information, like the one in the mini type with a star. That's what was there. But it was also important for me to sense what is the energy. So I sensed quite good energy, or I mean, I was asked like, oh, do you engage in these photo shoots? I said no, just like ignore me, you do you, and we can go with it. And so we set up a date to make it happen. I was honestly really, really nervous because I didn't know what to expect. It was my first shoot with really like complete strangers, and I was also worried because I was going to their place, so there was a lot of I was definitely stepping out of my comfort zone because I also didn't know what was going to happen in front of me. And I remember I was going to this apartment and my hands were like this, shaking like crazy. And I was like, okay, maybe I should just say that I'm not going. Or I was just really freaking out in my head. I was like, okay, let's just do it. Let's just do it. Your gut feeling was okay. Let's ring the bell. So I rang the bell, and I see the man like running down the stairs, and he's like, Linda, where are you? The sushi is here. I'm like, sushi? I'm like, who the hell eats sushi before this session? But it really like take away all my tension and nervousness. I thought it was really funny, and we just sat together and we ate sushi before the shoot. And then the girl showed me like a bed. She was so excited. It was so cute. She's like, oh my god, you have to pick my outfits. And there was like a full bed of like different outfits, masks and everything. So I thought, okay, they want me to take charge in leading the shoot in a way that I pick or create the scene by picking up the outfits or the toys or whatever. And then I said, okay, I picked everything, and now I disappear. And that was a complete different experience than from the other couple. And this was interesting because I expected that it's going to be a lot about sex. But in the end, it was a moment that completely changed my thinking on sexuality and the experience of pleasure, because no actual sex took place. It was just like a power play, but a very intense one, and there were so many emotions released, and I saw also the intensive love that they have for each other. So even though it was like BDSM role play, it was intimate, it was very, very vulnerable. And the beauty and the poetic part that I sensed from this was that there are people with whatever kinks there exist, and they manage to find each other and maximize their pleasure to just experience life together. And I found it very, very beautiful and inspiring, because if we think about encounters or intimacy and sex, it always or at least for me before, it kind of involved the idea of an intercourse, but this completely changed my perspective, and I did enjoy the scene. It felt like a theater or a performance for me, even though it wasn't a performance. It was something very, very real, and I do like to think of these experiences and how different they are. That each couple, or even more people, if they're involved, they have like different experiences of love, intimacy, and vulnerability, and it's so unique to each person that that is something that intrigues me so much. And even though it can be like obvious, but when you really see it, it's quite impactful. So from these stories, we can maybe move on to discuss the ethical considerations when photographing subjects in these like intimate and sexual contexts. I mean, there's a lot to consider, and of course, you don't want to photograph something that people might regret later. So that's why I find it very important, especially with strangers that I meet beforehand, to discuss the boundaries. Okay, what is a no-go? What are my boundaries? What are their boundaries? Also, not to push people so they can do just whatever they want in that moment. And after some time, when I was on this website to do these shoots, I got a nickname in the community that I'm a fly on the wall, and that does really fit the experience of like how to not interfere and kind of dissolve your presence so that it's not intimidating for the people. Is that you really become this fly on the wall. You just don't talk, you just operate really carefully in the space, and in terms of consent, boundaries, and responsibilities, both for photographer and for the subjects. I don't like to talk about subjects. I like to call it, let's just say, people, because otherwise it's hierarchical. Another example is when I photograph in a sex club in Buenos Aires. All these things, consent, boundaries, and responsibility, came up within this story. So this is how I demonstrate the concept that I'm trying to explain here, or what are the things to think about. This was a experience that I thought I got like a special ticket, to not a Disneyland, but something very different. But it's just like only a 1-day ticket, and because it was a special moment of being at this particular time and place, I thought, okay, I have to seize the opportunity, but at the same time not exploit it, because I got a permission from the sex club to photograph this whole night, and everywhere on their facilities except the dark rooms. But I still honestly had no idea how to navigate this space. So to describe you of this situation a little bit, I was going by myself, but I knew a person who works there, and who kind of got me in, and anyways, I always work mostly by myself. So already when I was entering this space, I saw the line, and the line was full of men. There were no women. So I already got uncomfortable in the sense like, okay, so I am always trying to blend in, but this made me really stand out, because I was like, okay, are these men gay or are they heterosexual? Because what is the dynamics? I had no idea. I was like, okay, I'm here, I'm just gonna go in. And this club was inside a shopping mall in the cellar, or it was really, there were no windows or nothing. It was just like a really dark place, and I was going down the stairs, and there was this altar, um, and I saw people praying there. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, I'm entering something very heavy, like hellish. So I just took like a deep breath in, deep breath out. I was like, let's do this. And it was hellish, like in both good and bad way. It was something that I have never seen ever in my life. It was very like grotesque, performative. There were people who really did professional performances. There were people who just went there to have fun, to engage, and the thoughts that came up to me were like, okay, I got a permission from the club to photograph, but did I get a permission from the people who entered to photograph? I mean, of course, if you enter a club, you kind of always agree with the terms and conditions when you purchase a ticket. But I still felt very strange, like, how do I ask for consent? Because I didn't want people to pose. I just wanted to take a picture in a specific moment when people dance or when people engage. And so I had to just like figure out a language of communication without actually saying much, because also my Spanish is limited. So I also, in this complete dark place, I had to photograph with the flash, and flash is a huge disruption to this moment. And so what I did was, okay, I scan the place, I scan the people, and when I see a moment, I try to make an eye contact with people, and then I show them my camera, and then I quickly snapped, and then I looked how they reacted, and they kind of nodded. So I thought, okay, so it was like this unwritten consent or agreement that it was okay for me to take a picture. Of course, of the performers, that I felt more comfortable because they are used to being filmed or to have their pictures taken, but the actual participants or people who went there to party, I had no idea. And I was planning to like spend the whole night there. It was from midnight to like 7 in the morning, and at some point it got really overwhelming for me because I have ADHD, and all my senses were completely overstimulated, because after like 3 hours, the place really started to smell very strongly. It was like the vapor from drugs and vapor from people's fluids, let's say, and it was not a pleasant smell, and I was getting really nauseous, and at the same time the music was really hard. There was a lot of like these strobe lights. So at some point I was like, okay, all my senses are in complete overload and I cannot focus. And I knew that I had to, or I wanted to wait for like the final performances. So I found like I found like a place to hide, and there was like a slope and this construction. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna fit myself in the middle of the construction, close my eyes, and just like move my body to shake off this tension or this overwhelming energy. And you know, I did start to feel very uncomfortable because the place was really a lot about sex. It was very physical, and I could see it everywhere. And at some point I just didn't know how to operate, and it was too much for me, and not in a judgmental way. It was just like inescapable. So if I just wanted to look somewhere else, it was still there, and I couldn't find much intimacy there, which is also okay. It was just like a different experience, let's say. And the next day, that was the funny thing, that the next day I woke up with completely, but really completely swollen eyes. And I was telling to myself like, okay, Linda, I think you have crossed your own boundary here, because your eyes are telling you we have seen too much. So it made me have a physical reaction from, I don't know if it was from the smells or from what, but I really, like, it was like this eyeballs. And because there were moments in the club when I felt like I'm gonna faint. I'm literally gonna faint from being overstimulated. But I pushed through it, but then the next day I did have this crazy reaction. But I think from this story you get what I mean when it comes to this consent, my own boundaries, what responsibility I have as a photographer and to the people. And it's confusing and scary also, because when I published this picture, I still wasn't sure if I can, or I felt weird about it. And I was really worried that people be like hating on me or something. But the reactions were really nice, and the people said like, oh my god, love the pictures, they're super nice, it's good to have this memory. And then some people said like, oh, I'm sorry, please, can you take my picture down from social media, because let's say I'm a sex worker and I cannot have my face on. And I completely understand it, and I did the pictures with the risk that this can happen. So I of course respect that, and would not go against this request, let's say. So in summary, I know this episode is long and dense, but I am trying to make it still like interesting for you and on point. So to summarize, like tips on what to do and what not to do. First of all, go with the flow. Just experience it and dive in. Don't direct because it's just weird to direct these situations. And meet people beforehand in public spaces if you're about to engage with strangers. Sense your gut and what energy you get from these people, and define clearly, very, very clearly, your boundaries and their boundaries, so that nobody feels that there was something crossed. And try to be open to whatever is about to happen in front of you. So I hope you managed to stay with me here for this episode of Ammonia Voids. I really, really hope it was insightful for you. And if you have any questions or your own experiences, please feel free to reach out, comment, and like or hate, whatever you want. Okay, I'm gonna end this episode now. Kisses.